Alright, the purpose of this video is to assign marks for the database management, well, the database design section of the SBA. Specifically for this one, we had a change coming down later on at the end to the question, and I asked groups to propagate that change, and James submitted his stuff for his group one yesterday. That was the 10th of March. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to assign marks. I shouldn't say try. I'm gonna assign marks right now for this section of the database. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to test against the requirements. Look at the structured database against the requirements here. Specifically with these fields here, the paid in full being both yes, no data type and the bridge entity. So I'm going to check that stuff. I'm going to check the relationships according to the mark scheme over here and assign those marks. So let me go ahead and do that. So I just brought up the mark sheet here. This is the marks I had before. We had all marks being awarded except for the statistical and summary features over here. One thing we need to check back would be also the queries because there was a change to the queries. So those are things that are on my mind right now to make sure that how we're very consistent with what we're doing for the database management section here. So let me go ahead. So I'm group one, James Babwah. I'm going to the database here. So I'm gonna just do a quick browse over it just to look at the structure of tables and stuff like that. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to look at the relationships, and I'll be able to see things here immediately what jumping out at me. And it's gonna be a change from before. I'm not seeing relationships. I wonder if it's because of this. Security risks, Microsoft would has blocked, well, sorry, Microsoft has blocked macros. This is a little bit strange. I'm not seeing the relationships here um, in your database. So I want to make sure I don't save stuff to this database. So I'm going to add the tables over again. There will be duplicate tables. Oh, that's strange. The relationship didn't update. So height table, height table, height table. So we have compound payments and open sports here. Wow, that was a bug. So the table wasn't open. So now I can definitely see we have the primary keys where we expect to see them here. I've seen the fields that I need to see. I've seen all the fields that are associated with a camper here to store the information about them as outlined in the question itself. Payments. This is a bit of a problem. It should be the key for camper ID for payments should be a composite primary key across camper ID and sports ID. Let's go and open the camper table, sorry, the payments table. Um, this is a bit strange. Why is this happening? Let me go ahead and close this. Let me close this here. Let me just save the changes here. So remember, I don't want to save any changes as I'm going along. So I'm going to go to the payments table. And why is it asking me for the camper at first name? I think there were some changes to the table. I think there's a problem on the lookup. That's all. Because we made changes to the structure of the table. There's a problem on the lookup. But I'm not seeing the camper ID over here. This is a bit of a problem. Because I know this was working before. So I'll ask you to make this change here. We need to see. I'll ask you to do the relationships over again. Alright, so delete the relationships and do them over, and I'll update the mark accordingly here. So let me just make sure and record that here. Um, Appropriate field names, suitable primary key. After, let's put this in yellow. After changes made, um, the lookup for camper ID does not work on the payment table. Please, I wonder if I could dictate this way. Don't have a dictate button. Please, actually, let's leave out the niceties, right? Delete. So this is a suggested fix, right? Delete relationships in DB tools and redo lookups Also, well, I guess it's okay that you can have the camper ID alone for the payment ID primary key because it's one payment per camper. All right, so that's reasonable. So not to worry about the composite primary key that I talk about. You still get the marks of that there. All right, so it's just a cosmetic thing. The lookup's not showing here. I wonder if I can export this table to CSV. Um, database, database tools, external data, exports to Excel. Let me see, Control C. So let me just verify. On this key R, Control V. Let's see what's up here. Yeah, the information is here. The information is in the database. It's just that because of the lookup, it's not training properly. A quicker fix might be to let's go to the database itself, and like I say, I'm not gonna save the changes to this. I'm not gonna save the changes to this database because I'll be me doing the work for you. You have to do this work. You know, you have to prove that you know what you know without a doubt. Go back to home, change the view of this table here. So I seen camper ID is a number, and if I go under lookup, I could take this off here. Let's try to take this off. Hopefully that might fix it. This is just gonna be a quick thing. If it do work, it do work. Yes. So the row source, I'll take off that from the lookup and change this view. You're gonna ask me to save the table. I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna escape. No changes. Saving no changes. Remember we have to keep this stuff as is. I'm gonna go back to your database here. I'm gonna copy it. Control C, Control V. So I'm just gonna have a copy right here. I can show you the changes, right? So I'm gonna mark your database as read only. Apply. All right. So at least I'll lock yours from you accidentally making changes. And this is the copy database. Let me go ahead and go back to the payments table and see if that fix could work. Okay, okay. Should I just open the design view? Yes. And when I go on the lookup tab over here, I could take off this query. This is a SQL query. I mean, you don't have to know what that is, but it's something you're gonna come across if you ever do computer science. Save the table, and look, the lookup exists, just not showing any data, but we see the data associated with each person here. And now that I think about it, one person could be assigned to multiple spots, so you don't have data to represent that. So you're definitely, I'm backtracking here. You're definitely going to need to have PK, a composite primary key. So I'm gonna go ahead and record that over here in this document here. Also, set the PK primary key, right on, the primary key of this table to be both I type moth BOTH, both camper ID and sports ID. I think I had that sports ID. Let me just go and look at that. And sport ID. Right. So that you definitely had to make that fix there. So selecting a suitable primary key, I cannot allow this because we would not be able to register for more than one spot based on what I'm seeing here. You have appropriate field names, appropriate data types. Let's go back and check the data types here quickly. Um, so right now working on the copy of the database. I'll continue working on the copy of the database. Should I? Should I not? I shouldn't. Let me look at your. So let me go back to the camper table. All right, appropriate data type, siblings participating in exclusive fee, payments. Uh, you yes no yes no good good. And let's see how the sport idea short text. I'm just look at sports here because you had a short name for it. That's appropriate also. All right, so good. So you get the full marks for that stuff over there. In the software industry, we call this a regression in software when you had something working before and you go backwards. So that's that over there. Join of pairs of tables and files. Um, it's weird that they say join table. I think they really meant evidence. Well, basically evidence of relationships and things like that. A join is really when you concatenate two tables in a query. But let me do go down that road. Yes. Queries, simple query, with one criteria. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at this now. All right, so open your payment query. This is a simple query with just one criteria, and I see in here you actually had multiple tables, so that's cool. So camper, sports, payments, and when I run this, I would see this information here. Let me look at the query section here. Create the following queries: the name, sex, and age of all players between 13 to 15. So that's part C. A calculated query. So I'm not seeing this query. Name, sex, and age of all. Name is query sports. Should I just look at it? So this is query name payment. Let me just go through from on the top over here. So if I go back, all right. So I'm gonna look at the first query, see part one here. Let me go back to name, sex, age, male campers between 13 and 15. So that would be name, sex, and age. Change view to design view, and I would see that you have multiple criteria: greater than 13, less than 15, and the sex of the camper is M. And let us go back to see part two. Name. So this query is name sports, name, age, address, and clothes size. For a name sports, so you get to select that sort there, that spot there. So let me call it one. All right, so this query is not working. So let me just go view this in design view. I see some SQL here. Wait, you're really putting me at a test here. Select camper first name, last name, age, camper clothing size, camper address, and sports. Or I don't know why it shows sports. From sports in a drawing camper in a drawing payments on camper the camper ID equals payment. So we just have we join in on sports ID and camper ID. Where payment ID and sport ID is equal to football. So this is a query about football, and if I run it, payments.sport ID, then we call this football. And now remember, sports IDs are these things here. But what's interesting about this is I think because it changed, it won't work. Let me see. Well, it actually did work. So my feedback to you on this here would be to redo this query. Like I said, it worked before. All right. This worked before is when we made the structural changes to the database. I guess I didn't get a chance to test it. So you're gonna have to go back and redo this query over here. So if I were to, you would have it in the old database. So let me see if I could open your old database. Let me just pause for a second here because I'm gonna have to browse for files. Alright, so I finished pausing. So this is where I have your newest database, and if we look at the folder called older, this is your older copy, and I open this database here. If you go back to sports, you would see that your query actually did work. It's only because of the structural changes. And it's unfortunate that now we can now, so I'm gonna ask you to go back and redo the query and make sure it works, right? So that's important. We could definitely meet in school and talk about this, but I hope this video will be super helpful for you in making these changes. I had to call out something. Whoever worked on this database here, after making the structural changes, they should have go through and make sure and test everything that it continues to work. So that's I guess that's live feedback. That's feedback on life, not really specifically on our database here. So let me go back to your database right now. So I saw those things, but definitely that query did not work according to specification. Let me open back your copy of the database here. So I have that as read only. So this is the latest version. Um, Close these things. And let me look at the last query. So the last query would have been, so we look at sports, um, C part 1, C part 2. Let me see C part 3, a calculated query for the campers who paid in full, giving a 10% discount. Given that a 10% discount is given for payments paid in full. So people who paid in full, um, all right. So registration reports. So paid in full, people who paid in full, and the discounted amount should have been a calculated value. All right. So I've seen it over here. So discount amount is registration cost time. Well, a 10% discount, so it's the total amount times 0.09. Mathematics. Big shock. Yeah, Michael Dapper would be proud here. Man's not, but never mind. That's social media stuff. All right, so we close this here. So that's good. That's good. Let me go back here. Click it again. First name, last name, sport name, registration. Why showing comp ID? Did the document specifically ask for that? Yeah, ID, first name, last name, sport cost. Okay, good. Um, and the discounted price. Okay, so that's good. So let's go back to the mark scheme right now and let me see what happening over here. Simple query with one criteria. Yes, you get one mark for the complex criteria. Using more than one table. You look back at your database, even though I can see the sports query. Is this a complex criteria? Sports. So I know this was football. Let me look at see part one. This is complex criteria. So first name, last name, age, and sex, but they all come from one table. That's the unfortunate part. So you have to get the sport to work here. So let me let me see what's the feedback I'm gonna say. Redo parts. It's part two. Yeah, redo part two. So let me go back to the mark scheme here. Well, the feedback thing. One mark, but because I know it working or no. It's just how the finished product is not there. Redo C parts. I I. It worked in your previous. All right, so redo C part two. All right, and correct use and result and calculated field. That's correct as usual. Form created with subform. I don't think we had any changes to this, so I expect now when I open this campus field, yes, I see a form, I see a subform. Microsoft Access gives us this subform straight out of the box here. If I change it to design view, I would see that this is indeed a table called payments, which is a subform. So form with subform, and let us let's go back over here. All right, so let me look at your report. Selection of report of appropriate fields. I think the report was general before. Let me see. I just want to make sure and check that report section again. Create one report with an appropriate title. Report should include a grouping on sports. So a grouping on sports, ascending order by last name and first name, using the fields on the payment query. Your payment query. Let's look at this here. Grouped on sports ID, last name, first name, using the fields on the payment query. Sport ID, last name, first name. Um, we don't have we have last name, first name. We have the sports, but we don't have the registration and discounted amount on your reports. I will let me verify that again here. Use the summary function to calculate. So honestly, I think you had a query that was working before. Um, I guess I could open your old database and check that. I don't need to right now. You know what? Let me go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna close this database here. Let me open your old database. So right, oops, I clicked the wrong one. If I go in the older folder and I open your old database, well, your previous submission, and I click on sports report, it's the same thing. So we don't have a change on this. Let me change this to design view and see what's up here. Yeah, we don't have those fields inside here. So I'm gonna advise you to redo that report here. Um, so that's your old database. So let's make sure and open back your new the latest copy that we have here. So I'm gonna delete the copy that I was working with here. Let me go back to your copy. Mm, so go on sports reports. Yeah, the same thing. It appears to be the same thing. View, design view, group and sort. So I see the grouping, but I see no summary features here. Um, well, in terms of calculations. So I go back to your selection of appropriate fields to the reports. No, you didn't put in all the fields. Statistical and summary features. No. Grouping on required fields. Yes. Correct specific report title. Correct specific report title, but that was given to you. So we just make sure. Um, or you had to name that. So let me look at that. Sport reports should have been descriptive of what you're showing. It's descriptive in terms of what you're showing here, in terms of the field names that you choose. So you'll get the marks for that. But when you change it, when you're adding the summaries and the discounted values, make sure and call the report sports report showing discounts per sport, something like that. So make sure and show that in it when you make the change. So let me go back here. Correct specific report title. I'm gonna call it a generic report title because so the marks actually went down after you resubmit. So we have a total of 15 out. I think this was, yeah, total out of 20, 15 out of 20. All right. So I hope this was useful for you. So groups, guys, said I'm gonna group and work this stuff out and get your group leader James to work with me to submit this again. All right. All right. Thanks for your time. I'll see you guys.